What's up, Tokyo fans? This is the Intergalactic N here with a new episode of... Except maybe this time I thought maybe Ultramania is getting a bit same old here and here, so I thought why not bring a new addition to the series. And so I decided to spice things up a little this time, and today I bring you the first entry of Ultramania on Acid. So it starts out with this group of scientists building this new weapon. I call that super weapon R-1 again because that's in the title. You get a super weapon R-1 is. So it goes in and it destroys this new planet which is uninhabited, they say. And it's like... And it's a success. And everyone's like... Yeah, boy! But then it turns out that this massive bird creature that's like... is coming towards Earth. So it turns out the planet wasn't uninhabited. So the bird thing comes to Earth and it's like... the military's like... and the bird thing's like... and then the bird thing dies. But then it comes back to life because it's an alien. And so now the bird thing can spew this yellow its mouth. And now the Ultra Squad can't attack it anymore. But suddenly there's Ultraseven. And Ultraseven, he's like... And so the battle begins, and Ultraseven beats the living shit out of the bird thing, and the bird thing beats the living shit out of Ultraseven, and so Ultraseven's on the ropes. But suddenly Ultraseven uses the last of his strength to rip off the bird thing's arm, and uses his head boomerang to slice up in its throat, and then the bird thing's like... Then the bird thing dies, and then everyone's sad because it wasn't evil, and everyone wants to avenge its home world. So overall, yeah, this episode was pretty good, I'd say. I'll give it 69 jars of Nutella out of Zeton's pod collection. So, until next time. Oh. What happened? Did I do acid again? God, this is the last time. Okay, you know, never mind. Ultramania on Acid is off the table. Usual reviewer is... Jesus God. I need to quit that. Anyway, what episode was it again today? Super Weapon R-1. Okay, I can do this. God. Yes, this episode starts with a super missile being prepared for testing by the Ultra Garrison, which is said to have the power of 2,000 hydrogen bombs, enough to destroy a small planet. Dan, due to his expansive ethical knowledge of the galaxy, is gravely concerned of this, and after an argument with Furuhashi, the teammate responds to his concerns of enemy aliens counteracting R-1 with even bigger weapons, with the assurance that the Ultra Squad would come up with even greater weapons to counteract those. I like how this scene, which gets boosted with some others, gives a nod to the events of the Cold War in terms of the arms race, but you don't know who the enemy is, or the Cuban Missile Crisis with an overly confident Kennedy and an unknown Khrushchev, or... does anyone remember that scene from SpongeBob? Anyway, after R1's successful launch and the scientists who developed it waves it off to the destruction of a planet called R-1, which is claimed to be uninhabited and suitable for nuclear testing. After R-1's flashy demise, the Ultra Squad throw a large hurrah. Right off the bat with the scene is the intentional tension immediately after the planet's demise, given Dan's increasing disapproval of his failure to stop the launch, undoubtedly telling you that something is going to go horribly wrong, as we're barely 5 minutes in. And sure enough, a distress message is received from an Ultra Garrison base that has claimed to be under attack. One thing that I personally love about this moment is the added tension to what exactly did come from R-1's demise, with that actually being one of my favourite bits about Ultraseven in general. Ultraman would straight off the top show you the Kaiju or Seijan of the month in its full colours within about the first 5 minutes, making you pretty much know what to expect. But with Ultraseven, the alien of the week would be kept a mystery until the very end, or at most be very obscurely looked upon for a brief moment until its full reveal later on, like Pegasa and Prisoner 303, with this episode being no exception. When Dan and Furuhashi trail R1's forward footsteps, the alien that emerged from R1 is revealed. Is it done well, with the creature being fiercely intimidating like Godzilla in order to symbolize the tragedy of its origins? Not really. The reveal is literally just a monster sighting in space, nothing special. With the Seijin, which is commonly known as Star Bem, makes a decent first impression with it easily withstanding Hawk 1 and breaks through some asteroids on its destination to Earth in order to seek revenge, with Dan's regrets reaching maximum drive. This scene does succeed in leaving a rather deep first impression, with it certainly being dark and powerful enough for the next scene to be truly understandable, with the two scientists confessing their mistakes and show grave condolences for their actions. There are quite a few small things with this choice of characterization that make this episode truly work and feel unique. Given a drastic change in character focus is changed from the members of the Ultra Squad to a couple of specific scientists, with every usual background scientist in Ultraman being like,
I am a scientist! I have always wanted to be a scientist, and I am good at being a scientist!
These typical characters show such personal emotion towards their mistakes and Gear-1's fate, which gives a quality that you would typically slip to notice. Character inevitability. Should the launch of the missile have been the fault of a main character like Shigeru, the credibility of the guilt of the character would have been demolished, with it being near impossible to capture their trauma of the test in further episodes, therefore lowering the episode's impact and credibility of its message. However, by choosing two individual scientists that never appear again, it's almost inevitable that they will carry that guilt wherever they go, and it's left to your imagination to say how far it affects them, rather than no traces of this episode's impacts being carried over to the next episode if a main character did it. Moving on though, the Gear-1 monster is sighted at a church, and it's up to the Ultra Garrison fighter pilots to stop its rampage. I honestly have to say I'm not a fan of Gear-1's bird design that much, given how massive and stiff his arms are, which makes movement awkward to look at. Then again, I guess the movement restrictions may be an effect of the tragedy of his world's demise, which mutated him, which may have left him in constant queer movement and pain like the later Shin Godzilla, and his screech does seem to capture some vibes of sorrow and anguish. Still, after the fighter jets blow him up, Gear-1 revives himself by merging back together with yellow goo blood contracting to reform him. Not sure if that's a natural ability or an effect of the mutation, but the effects in the scene are intriguing nonetheless. The next day, the revived monster is marked and attacked again by the Ultra Squad, but it proves ineffective as it has developed a poisonous yellow mist that counteracts the fighter jets before they can get a fatal shot. This scene is practically your run-of-the-mill monster attack scene, but it's damn entertaining nonetheless, with an impressive countryside miniature set. Eventually, the Gear-1 monstrosity starts going for the individual adversaries on the ground, which leads to none other alternative but for Dan to turn into Ultraseven. Okay, this fight scene is pretty so-and-so. Given the Gear-1 monster's limited movement, the first half of the fight relies on cheap gimmicks, like the bird reflecting sunlight to blind Seven, which forces him to retreat, though we do get some impressive effects like this. There's also no music in the main part of the fight, which may reflect Seven's hollow attitudes towards killing the beast, as it was merely a victim to humanity's recklessness. Eventually, with the power of the sun's light, Seven uses the last of his strength to pull off possibly the most over-the-top and brutal execution in Ultraman history, especially for an opponent which he feels great sympathy for. Step 1. Fully rip off your opponent's arm and let him stumble and collapse into writhing agony. Step 2. Apply a fixed grasp onto screaming victim on the floor. Step 3. Remove your eye slugger and slice his throat, allowing yellow blood to spray in all directions. Good God, man. Seriously, I am actually surprised they were allowed to get away with this. I mean, what was happening with the editing crew to allow this to pass through?
Akiraji Joshi-san, I need to wait for a fitting epic climax for my fight between my Gilon alien and Ultraseven. You know, to make it a little more dramatic.
Aha, I have just the idea you are looking for, Tsuburaya-san.
Oh, what is it?
Okay, so the Gilon monster has Ultraseven on the lobes, right? Right. And then Ultraseven uses all his strength to rip off the alien's arm. Okay. Then Ultraseven gets his ice slugger and slices his throat in half, allowing blood to gush everywhere.
No! I don't like it. Too violent.
What? Come on, make an exception.
No! You remember what I said before we started filming Ultra Q? Remember, children will be watching. Do not show anything too cruel.
Okay, fine. If you want, I can make the blood yellow.
Really? Ah, well that makes all the difference then. I'll go with that. That's completely fine.
Okay, nevertheless, after Seven flies off with a hollow victory, a discussion is held that the Ultra Garrison will need to develop an even greater R-2 and even R-3 and R-4 missile in order to combat similar threats, making Dan's nightmare a reality. However, with the scientist duo showing great concern for future similar tragedies and further confessions for the terrible accident, boosted with Dan's urges to stop developments by giving his same points, the episode goes out on a positive vibe with the cancellation of further missiles being decided, or rather, a bittersweet ending, given the Gear 1 tragedy happened nonetheless, but the reduced possibility in it happening again is confirmed, leaning more to the sweet side. And with that, the episode ends. So my overall conclusion? I think this episode is indeed very good, with the striking moral lessons and allusional references making it stand out, with Super Weapon R-1 definitely being the most tragic episode of the series. I'd probably say so more than Dark Zone, or even perhaps the series finale. The act of a paradise homeworld being ravaged by humanity's greedy expansion being pretty deep for a series like Ultraseven, but other than its messages, there isn't that much else to say. Effects are decent for the most part, with the Gear 1 monster a pretty good alien, with it definitely having the tragic attributes of Frankenstein and such. The plot is okay, I'd say, given the tragedy of Gear 1 being the main focus. There isn't exactly that much mystery or investigation that leads to an epic climax. The last 2/3 of the episode mostly just being the Ultra Squad trying to stop alien Gear 1. Nothing that intriguing like Metron or Alien Beerah's episode, but it's still good, given the episode swerves around characterization for any Ultra Squad members and focuses on two scientists. It furtherly makes the episode unique, with Dan also getting heavily affected by the events of R-1 and makes ethical points, but then again he has the ever-knowing mind of an alien. Everyone else is only human. Overall, this episode is good. Not one of the best, but neither towards the grey side either. 8 out of 10.
どんなに辛くてどんなに苦しくても